She served as a bicycle coordinator for the city of Austin. She's on the board of, or served on the board of the International Mountain Biking Association, the League of American Bicyclists, and the Bicycles Belong Coalition.
What kind of system is it? And in this country, it's what we call an SOV-dominated system. It's dominated by single-occupant vehicle cars. And the single-occupant vehicle system is roads, streets, pretty much anything that's dominated by cars and not really intended for any other use, like walking or cycling. And there are three main reasons why the U.S. dominated system by single-occupant vehicles doesn't really serve us completely. The first reason is that a lot of people can't even drive a car. They're either too young because they're kids, and even though their parents might drive them around, if there's no sidewalks or anything, kids are pretty much confined to not being able to get around by themselves. A lot of people are too old. 8 million people in this country over 60 don't have a driver's license. Personal vehicles account for a huge percentage of greenhouse gases. Deaths, 42,000 people a year in this country die in car accidents. It's the #1 killer of children. But one of the main reasons, and what we're here to talk about today, is the health costs of that system. This chart here shows the 50 states, and the ones on the far left of the chart are the highest levels of bicycling and walking. And the squiggly line there is obesity level in states. As the chart moves, as the graph goes to the right, the states on the far right end are where we have high levels, the highest levels of obesity. Texas is right there. And as you can see, low levels of bicycling and walking. We also have the same correlation with high blood pressure and with diabetes. All trips in this country are 9% bicycling and walking. They are 13% of traffic fatalities, but we're only spending 1.2% of the federal budget on it. So we're already not spending enough money for the level of cycling that we have. Here's a chart with that shows just the difference in cities in the U.S. with what percentage trips are by bicycle. San Antonio's down here at the bottom. It's something like 0.1% of all trips. It gets a little bit better in Austin, San Francisco. How did we end up with neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks in them? And it's kind of complicated. As the United States developed just as a country and kind of moved west, there was lots of space. It was cheap. And in the 30s through the 50s, when cars became really popular and available to people, people sort of decided that it was much cooler to get around in a car than by walking. So a lot of newer neighborhoods and newer cities in this country just didn't build sidewalks. Sidewalks cost money, and as neighborhoods were being built by developers who were in it for the money, they didn't want to spend the money on it, and then the cities allowed that to happen. The players in all of this, it's at the federal level all the way down to the local level. The Federal Highway Administration, the United States DOT, determines policy at the federal level along with Congress and the administration, the president and his Secretary of Transportation. We have, at the state level, we have our Texas Department of Transportation that is managed in policy-wise by the governor, the legislature, the Texas Transportation Commission. Then locally, we have the San Angelo, the MPO, and the city of San Angelo. And all those entities are deciding what your transportation system looks like, but you as citizens are either voting those policies in or supporting them or kind of allowing them to happen. The money for all of these systems, basically, most of it comes from federal gasoline taxes, but also some of it can be sales tax locally. The city of Austin has found a lot of creative ways to pay for the gains that it has made. Transportation enhancements money, but also the MPO in Austin sets aside 15% of its surface transportation money for bike and ped, and it's made that big commitment over time. Also, Austin has bond elections. They build bicycle and pedestrian facilities with bonds that citizens vote on. Going back to the percentage of federal money that's spent for bicycle and pedestrian facilities, this is how Texas compares to some other states. We only spend in Texas 0.8% of our federal money on bike and ped, but it's 6% of our trips, and it's 13% of our fatalities. And there's a lot of people, politicians, agency folks, and citizens who feel like we shouldn't even be spending 1.2%. But the reasons to invest in bicycle and pedestrian facilities are many. For one thing, people want it. 52% of Americans want more bike and ped facilities than we already have. But the main reason to invest in bicycling and walking is that it just makes sense. 44% of all work commute trips in this country are under 5 miles. 40% of every time anybody leaves their house, they only go 2 miles or less. So these two distances could easily be accomplished by bicycling and walking, and by doing so, a person would accomplish their 30 minutes of daily exercise that's now being recommended. Bill just told me today that the Centers for Disease Control is now recommending that go up to 60%. Also, bicycling and walking trips could help arrest the pretty shocking obesity rates that we're seeing in this country. This slide here shows us how other countries that are ahead of us in this area that have more facilities for bicycling and walking also have lower obesity rates. This is between 1960 and 2003, 2000 roughly. Bicycling and walking for adults went down 67%, while the obesity rate went up 241%. And for kids, between 1966 and 2001, bicycling and walking to school went down 68%. Obesity has gone up 367%. And if all of that's not enough, we have the Fattest Cities in America report that came out 2 days ago. And of the 10 top fattest cities in America, as you can see, there's a bunch of them in Texas. What does a bicycle and pedestrian-friendly city look like? This here is a before and after shot of a complete street conversion. But in the top you can see that there aren't any sidewalks, there aren't any bike lanes, the space in that road is only for cars, and there's a lot of space. Then in the bottom slide, this is what it looks like when they've taken some of the space away from the motor vehicles and have made space for bike lanes, sidewalks. The center turn lane has gone away, and there's a nice median there. Here is a cycle track. These are real popular things in Europe, but we're starting to build them here in the United States. And it's where the bicycle facility is on the other side of a separated median. Then there's also a place for walkers. The thing up there on the left is a countdown signal, and it just tells people when they start to cross the street how much time they have left so that people feel more comfortable getting across the street. San Angelo's progress. These are some of the projects right now that San Angelo is either doing or is applying for funding for. So as a university, what is the role here? The first thing is that a university is changing thinking. When you're talking about getting America more fit, getting people more active, instead of just thinking in terms of getting in your car and driving to the gym, you can start talking about active transportation. Walk to the store to buy your groceries or just do your errands on your bicycle. It's another way to exercise. The university here, as you are addressing your student transportation needs, maybe we can start thinking about not having it to be a car-dominant system and accommodating students who come to school without a car, or just making it less expensive for them to get around by providing bike and pedestrian opportunities. The university is a citizen of this town, so you have an enormous amount of influence. What happens to the area around the university? You employ people, and when people graduate here, they take their ideas to other cities and towns. So there's a role there for us to play. So anyway, this shows you all the resources that you have, anybody has, to help to start doing a campaign to make your community more bicyclable and walkable. Here's my contact information if anybody has any questions or wants any of the data afterwards. This is a list of San Angelo folks that are involved in all of this work. The most important one is the one at the bottom, because none of this is going to happen without people.